On the question of the dealing of Elon Musk, I had a lot of things to comment in the past because he was discussing a lot about Europe. And just to repeat what I already said, we have the freedom of speech in Europe and in Germany. Everyone can say what he wants, even if he is a billionaire. And what we do not accept is if this is supporting extreme right positions.
So please raise your hands if you have any question or any comment to be made. And don't be shy. No. I don't see. People are too shy. Yeah.
This is my video update on this Wednesday midday, January the 22nd, coming to you from Limassol, Cyprus. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with the World Economic Forum. Davos. Davos was taking place yesterday. I believe it was the first day of the WEF, but I'm not quite sure. Either way, it was an amazing day at the WEF in Davos. All the big names were speaking yesterday in Davos. You had the pirate SCHOLZ speaking in Davos. You had a big speech from Ursula von der Leyen, and the headline speaker was Volodymyr Elensky. And he got dressed up for his big performance in Davos. He wore his best sweatshirt to the event. So all the big names were in Davos. They all gave speeches. Klaus Schwab, of course, was also in attendance. And let's start things off with the pirate SCHOLZ. How in God's name did this man get to the position of Chancellor of Germany? How in God's name is this guy running a country? Oh my God. You listen to Olaf Scholz, and that's the only thing I can come away with when I listen to Olaf Scholz. How is this guy running Germany? Because he is so mediocre. Mediocre at best. That's Olaf Scholz. Anyway, he was at Davos and he decided to lecture everybody about free speech. That's right, Olaf Scholz told all of the globalists in attendance in Davos that Germany absolutely has free speech. They have free speech for everybody. You can speak freely in Germany. You can criticize the government if you want. You can even be a billionaire and speak freely in Germany. Unless, here's the exception, unless you're far right. If you're far right or you're saying far right things, then you're not allowed to speak freely in Germany. And who defines what is far right? Well, of course, the globalists. The globalists define what is far right. The EU political elite and the kleptocrats, they define what is far right. AfD, far right. Elon Musk, far right. People of the traditional left, Sarah Wagenknecht, far right. RFK Jr., far right. Anyone that speaks against the globalists and against the EU political class, that's far right. Zuckerberg used to not be far right. Zuckbot, here we go, Zuckbot was not far right. MAGAZuck is far right. Jeff Bezos was at the inauguration. He's also far right now. He's also far right. Elon Musk, far right. Soros, there you go. He's an oligarch that can speak freely. Soros is an oligarch, according to Olaf Scholz, that has free speech in Germany. Musk is an oligarch that does not have free speech in Germany. Yeah, so that's Olaf Scholz's definition of free speech. It's free speech with an exception. The exception is that if you speak bad about us, then it's not free speech. If you say something bad against the globalists in power, yeah, then it's not free speech. But everything else is free speech, according to Olaf Scholz. And then Ursula took the stage, and she gave her big speech. Ursula Van de Crazy. She spoke for about 30 minutes, and her big speech was on the power of the EU, the power and the possibility and the bright future of a sovereign, independent EU, as if the EU is a country. She says a sovereign, independent EU. That was Ursula's message. Yes, things are bad. Yes, the EU is in tatters. Tatters, I tell you. But Ursula's message was that the EU can flourish. The EU can become a world power. That was Ursula's message. Things are hard in the European Union, according to Ursula. Things are very hard. The European Union faces many challenges, according to Ursula. Challenges that I created, problems that I created, but forget about that. The EU has a lot of problems. And the solution to the problem, to all of the problems, according to Ursula, is more EU. Of course it's more EU.
But I want to go even further than this. Today, the European single market still has too many national barriers. So sometimes companies are dealing with 27 different national legislations. We will offer instead to innovative companies to operate all across our European Union under one single set of rules. We call it the 28th regime.
More EU centralization, less power to the member states, more power to Brussels. To be fair, Ursula did concede that the European Union has been suffering because it no longer has access to Russian energy. She said in her speech that the high prices, the inflation in the European Union is an effect of not having access to cheap, dependable, reliable, accessible Russian energy, Russian gas. And then Ursula went on to say that the reason the EU does not have Russian gas is because Putin cut off the gas. That's right. It was Putin that cut off the gas to the European Union. Not the sanctions, not the blowing up of Nord Stream. Nope. It was Putin that woke up one day and said, let me just turn the gas off. Why? Because, that's the way I roll. I'm an evil dictator. That's the way I roll. I'm Putin. Putin, the evil dictator. I'm going to cut off the gas because why not? Yeah, that was how Ursula explained the cutting off of Russian energy.
This energy appeared cheap, but it exposed us to blackmail. So when Putin's tanks rolled into Ukraine, Putin cut us off his gas supplies, and in return, we substantially reduced our dependency on Russian fossil fuels in record time. Our gas imports from Russia went down by roughly 75%. And now we import from Russia only 3% of our oil and no coal at all anymore. But freedom came at a price. Households and businesses saw sky-high energy costs.
Citizens of Europe, you're going to pay more for energy. You're going to become poorer. Everything's going to be more expensive, but that's the price of freedom, according to Ursula. Do not worry, citizens of Europe, Ursula said in her speech. Do not worry, because she has a plan. She has a plan to move away from gas. That's right. She has a plan to move away from gas and to make Europe a global superpower. In her speech in Davos, von der Leyen argued that the EU could further replace the supplies from Russia with renewable and nuclear energy. Ooh, Annalina's not going to like that. We will have to invest in next generation clean energy technologies like fusion, enhanced geothermal, and solid state batteries, the European Commission chief said. That's right. Ursula, she's been speaking with Doc Brown, and she's taken a look at his DeLorean, and she's really interested in the flux capacitor and the power of the flux capacitor. And that is what is going to save Europe, right? The flux capacitor. Oh, man. Ursula also said that the EU is looking to work with all countries around the world, all regions, not only the United States. It's not dependent on the United States, according to Ursula. Europe is ready to do business with Africa, with Asia, with South America. That's right, not Russia, but Africa, Asia, South America, China. The EU is ready to do business. The only problem is that the global south doesn't want to do business with the EU. That's the only problem. You're a vassal. You are a vassal. European Union, a vassal to the United States. Who are you kidding? You are 100% dependent on the US. And that is the way you, Ursula, that is the way you made it. 100% dependent on the US, which means you are 100% dependent now on Trump. And Ursula's big fear is that Trump is going to turn on the tariffs. And then the European Union is screwed. Very, very screwed. Politico has an article with the title, EU tells Trump's America, we have other options. No, you don't. You have no options. You have one option, and that option is Donald J. Trump. That's your only option. Anyway, and Trump is going to call your bluff, Ursula. He is going to call your bluff. So let's move on now to the big speech from the Green Goblin, Elensky's big speech. The main event that everybody was waiting for, Elensky giving his big speech in Davos. And what a speech it was. What a speech from Elensky. Oh boy, where to begin? Where to begin? Well, Elensky, first of all, he thanked Klaus Schwab for inviting him to Davos, because these days it's very hard for Elensky to book a gig. No one wants to book Elensky these days. The first year of the conflict, Elensky was headlining in parliaments around the world. Well, in the collective West, he was headlining in those parliaments. He even had a big performance in Congress. But nowadays, he doesn't really get many offers to perform. But he did get Davos. He did manage to get Davos. So he's very thankful to Klaus Schwab. Mr. Schwab, thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me to the WWF, Mr. Schwab. I very much enjoy eating the bugs that you are offering at this event. Mr. President, what is it, Podolyak? It's the WEF, not the WWF. What you say, Podolyak? You mean Hulk Hogan is not here? I'm not going to meet Hulk Hogan. What is going on? What is this WEF? Elensky speaking at the WEF, and Elensky looking to create some drama between the European Union and the US. That's right. That was the purpose of his speech, to create a rift between the European Union and the United States of America. That was Elensky's strategy. He said in his speech, when we view the United States as our ally in Europe, we recognize it as an essential partner. In times of war, we all worry about whether the United States will stand by us, and all allies share this concern. But does anyone in the US ever worry that Europe might abandon them? That Europe could cease to be their ally? The answer is no. Washington does not perceive Europe as delivering anything of significant importance. I recall last year's summit in Shangri-La, where members of the American delegation candidly stated that their top priority was the Pacific region, followed by the South, and then Europe. Elensky trashing the European Union. Oh, man. The United States does not care about the EU. Hey, the US, they don't care about the EU, Mr. Klaus Schwab. They don't care about us. What can I say? Oh, man, he was trashing the EU in his speech, trashing the European Union.
It's clear they are an indispensable ally. In times of war, everyone worries, will the United States stay with them? And every ally worry about that. But does anyone in the United States worry that Europe might abandon them someday, might stop being their ally? The answer is no. Washington does not believe Europe can bring them something that is really substantial.
Unbelievable stuff coming out of Elensky's mouth, I'm telling you. Podolyak, listen, I have plan as we go to Davos. I have very good plan. I will create drama. I will create a fight between the European Union and the United States of America. And when they fight, they will give me money. I see this in Hollywood movie called Mean Girls, where these girls in school in America, they fight against each other. And this is my strategy, Podolyak. I think this is a good strategy. Yeah, he's trying to create drama, to play off the EU against the US, and to get money to Ukraine. Oh man. And he asked for money. He asked for weapons. He told Europe, you got to start spending more on Ukraine. You got to start getting more weapons to Ukraine. Because according to Elensky, the Putin, he is building a huge military, he said, a huge, massive military, 5 times the military that exists right now. And according to Elensky, what is the goal of the Putin? The goal of the Putin is to recreate the Soviet Union. So the only option, according to Elensky, the only option is to give him more weapons and to give him more money. That is the only option to stop Putin before he takes over all of Europe. And Elensky is calling for 200,000 peacekeepers in Ukraine. If there is a ceasefire, Elensky told those in attendance in Davos, he will need from NATO, from Europe, 200,000 peacekeepers in Ukraine. Not 100,000, not 150,000, 200,000. The number is going up and up and up, right? In a month, it'll be 300,000. In 3 months, it'll be 1 million. The problem is that I don't think NATO, definitely not the European Union, definitely not EU NATO, I don't think they have 200,000 soldiers in total to give to Ukraine. Actually, I don't think they have 200,000 soldiers in all of their countries if you put them all together. I don't know. Maybe they have 300,000 in total. So yeah, he's basically asking for the entire army of EU NATO to go to Ukraine. I'm exaggerating it, but 200,000 is a huge ask. 100,000 is a huge ask. 200,000. Elensky, man, what are you on, bro? What are you on? Anyway, that was Elensky in Davos. And we can now talk about Trump. Let's talk about Trump because he spoke once again with the media, and the topic that is on the media's mind is Ukraine, the conflict in Ukraine, because the media, they've been tasked with trying to pull Trump into Project Ukraine, to bog him down in Project Ukraine. That is why they are continuously asking him about Ukraine. That is their goal, to bog Trump down in Project Ukraine. And so they asked Trump about Russia and Ukraine. And one of the reporters asked Trump about possible sanctions. If Putin does not agree to a ceasefire, will you place sanctions on Russia? If Putin does not come to the negotiating table, I think was the question from the reporter. Will you place more sanctions on Russia? And Trump said, likely. Likely. Oh boy, likely is what Trump said.
You called for a ceasefire in Ukraine. If Vladimir Putin doesn't come to the table to negotiate with you, will you put additional sanctions on Russia?
Sounds likely.
And do you think that the war should be frozen currently?
The war should have never started. If you had a competent president, which you didn't, the war wouldn't have happened. The war in Ukraine would have never happened if I were president.
And then the reporter asked, should there be a freeze to the war? Should the war be frozen on the front lines, on the current front lines? And then Trump said the war would have never started if I was president. And he got into all of that. But yeah, likely more sanctions. What sanctions? There's nothing left, man. There's nothing left. Biden dropped the big one before he exited the White House, which was the big oil sanctions. There's nothing else left for Trump to sanction. There is no more leverage left for Trump, which is why I think he is trying to create leverage. He's a marketing guy, so he's trying to sell the world and to sell Russia on leverage, that he has some sort of secret hidden leverage on Russia and on Putin. And if they don't agree to a ceasefire in Ukraine, according to whatever Trump's plan is going to be, whatever Kellogg is working on, if Russia doesn't agree to that, then Trump is marketing it as if he has some secret leverage that he's going to roll out to get Russia to agree to the plan that Kellogg is putting together. By the way, the Wall Street Journal ran an article saying that Trump has ordered Kellogg to come to a peace deal in the next 100 days. Trump's Ukraine envoy has a hard climb to any peace deal. Retired General Keith Kellogg has a plan for ending the war, but the president will control the talks. So look, Trump, when it comes to Russia, Trump is either being very misinformed about the situation in Russia, believing the numbers of casualties that the collective West media, that Ukraine, the UK Ministry of Defense, probably Kellogg as well, the casualties that he's throwing out there. He's believing those numbers. He's believing the narrative about Russia's economy in tatters. So he's either being extremely misinformed on Russia, or the other option is that he is playing some sort of 5D, 6D, 20D chess. And he's coming out with a lot of tough talk against Putin and against Russia, knowing that he's got nothing. He's got nothing to negotiate with. And so he's talking tough. He's talking a big game, knowing he has nothing over Russia, and eventually Russia is going to not agree with whatever plan Kellogg comes up with. And then Trump can walk away and say, you know what? I presented a very tough deal. I tried to get a ceasefire. Putin didn't agree. We're out of here. Maybe that's his angle. Maybe that is his angle. And that way the media can't, and the deep state, they can't go after Trump with more Russiagate, you're a Putin puppet nonsense, because Trump can say, I was tough on Putin. I was very tough on Putin. I presented a very tough plan for a ceasefire, and he decided to continue the conflict and search for a military solution. What can I do? The important thing that Trump has to do, if this is indeed the plan, which I have my doubts, I think he's probably being misinformed, but we'll see. we'll see as the talks, as we get to talks, as we begin talks. The one thing that the Trump White House has to do, they have to do this, is they have to get the messaging saying this was not my war. Trump has to get this messaging out there. Every time he's asked about Ukraine, he can say whatever he wants. We're going to place sanctions on Russia. I'm going to be tough on Putin. Russia has lost X amount of soldiers. Russia's economy is a mess. Say whatever you want. But before you get into that messaging, always start off, Trump, always start off with this line. This was Biden's war. This was Biden's obsession. This is not my war. I'm going to try my best to fix Biden's mistakes. That's what he should say. He should always preface everything when it comes to Ukraine and Russia. Whenever he gets questions from reporters, he should always preface it with that line. This was not my war. I didn't want this. This is all on Biden and Blinken and Sullivan. I'll try my best to fix it. That should be his messaging. Isn't it interesting that the U.S. is so involved in the negotiations in Project Ukraine and trying to find a ceasefire now with President Trump? And the Biden White House's narrative for the 3 years of the special military operation was that the U.S. is not involved in this conflict. They were telling us that for 3 years. The U.S. is not involved in this conflict. We're not involved in this conflict. We're just trying to help Ukraine defend itself. But without the U.S., there is no negotiation. There is no talk. There's nothing. It's proof that this is indeed a war between Russia and the United States, a proxy war, but it is a war between Russia and the United States. Anyway, let's move on to Orban. Let's talk about Orban. And he wants to end the sanctions against Russia. He posted on X, it's time to talk about sanctions. Did they bring the war to an end? No. Did they cripple the Russian economy? No. Did Europe manage to replace Russian energy from other affordable sources? No. The sanctions engineered by the Brussels bureaucrats achieved one thing. They destroyed the competitiveness of the European economy. The time for change has come. Yeah, Orban. Orban is the leader of Europe. He is the man in Europe because he backed Trump to the full. He was 100% behind Trump, while the rest of the EU was 100% behind Kamala Harris and now Orban. He senses that this is his opportunity. This is his chance to end the conflict in Ukraine, to remove the sanctions, to get the gas and the oil flowing back to Hungary, back to Slovakia, and to finally vanquish his Brussels enemies, vanquish Ursula, vanquish Kaja Kallas, vanquish Macron. Yeah, Orban feels emboldened. He feels confident now because he bet on the right person to win the U.S. elections. And he was meeting with Fico in Bratislava, and he lashed out at Elensky. He said that Elensky, he needs to respect Hungary and Slovakia. That is what Orban said. The way people in Kiev are trying to build relations with Central European states is unacceptable. We are ready to respect them, but we demand respect for ourselves. And if we raise a serious issue, then they must discuss it with us, Orban stated. There should be no confusion in positions. The Ukrainian leaders cannot behave as if Bratislava and Budapest should dance to their tune. This is impossible, the Hungarian leader added. That was the statement from Orban as he was meeting with Fico. The two leaders of the European Union, Orban and Fico. Their opportunity is now. Their time is now. If we're going to fix anything in the EU with regards to Russia, then this is This is falling on the shoulders of Orban and Fico. I wonder what Orban is telling Trump. I wonder if Orban is giving Trump a different narrative to the one he appears to be getting from Kellogg and these guys. Rubio did say yesterday that it is now U.S. policy to end the war in Ukraine, which was an interesting statement from Rubio, which could indicate that maybe Trump's plan is to be very tough with Putin, to talk a very big game, realizing that there's no way an agreement is going to come about, and then Trump can walk away. I don't know. Rubio's statement was interesting, where he said it's policy to end the conflict in Ukraine. Very interesting statement from Rubio. Anyway, Denmark, they issued a statement saying that the F-16, the death of the F-16 fighter, I talked about this in a video a couple of days ago, and I mentioned how it was Russian media that said that a strike in Kryvyi Rog had killed an F-16 fighter from Denmark, a trainer, a fighter pilot that was training Ukrainians to fly the F-16. He was killed in this Russian strike in Kryvyi Rog, and I mentioned how this was coming from Russian media and that there was no official statement yet from Denmark. Well, they have come out with an official statement yesterday, and they are denying that an F-16 instructor was killed in Ukraine. In a statement on Monday, Danish Defense Minister Truls Lund Poulsen dismissed the report as misinformation. No Danish soldiers have been killed in Ukraine, Poulsen said. It is a false story that has been circulating in Russian media, probably to discredit Denmark, he added. So there you have it, the official statement from Denmark. They claim that there was no F-16 instructor that was killed in this strike. So maybe proof of life, something, a video, a statement from this pilot would be 100% proof that Denmark is right and this was Russian misinformation. I would say that would be good to see. The pilot in a video saying, here I am, everything is okay. I wasn't killed in this strike in Kryvyi Rog. Anyway, that's the update on that story. Very quickly, Trump, he has pardoned Ross Ulbricht. He has pardoned Ross Ulbricht. I just called the mother of Ross William Ulbricht to let her know that in honor of her and the libertarian movement, which supported me so strongly, it was my pleasure to have just signed a full and unconditional pardon of her son, Ross. The scum that worked to convict him were some of the same lunatics who were involved in the modern-day weaponization of government against me. He was given 2 life sentences plus 40 years. Ridiculous. So this is good news, very good news, that he has been pardoned. From what I understand, when they went after Ross, they confiscated something like $18 billion worth of Bitcoin or something like that. So I wonder if the government is now going to give him back his Bitcoin, his 18 billion in Bitcoin. Anyway, that was the update there. Let's do some clown worlds, and we can wrap this video up. So let's begin with Trump and Spain being part of BRICS. Yesterday, he was signing the executive orders, and well, Trump started to talk about how Spain is the S in BRICS. Spain is the S in BRICS, according to Trump, and then he started to explain all about BRICS to a reporter. So that definitely deserves a clown world. Here's the video.
Thank you, sir.
What can we expect of the countries in NATO that spend the least amount of money, like Spain, France, below the 5%?
Spain is very low. And yet, are they a BRICS nation?
What?
They're a BRICS nation, Spain.
Okay.
You know what a BRICS nation is? You'll figure it out. But, and if the BRICS nations want to do that, that's okay, but we're going to put at least a 100% tariff on the business they do with the United States. You know what the BRICS is, right? You guys know.
Brazil,
You know what I'm saying, right?
That was Trump signing executive orders, talking about Spain and BRICS. And let's now talk about, how about Lex Friedman, who interviewed the Green Goblin. He put out a video the other day saying that he was disappointed in Elensky. His buddy Elensky has disappointed Lex Friedman. We said that the Lex Friedman interview was a train wreck. We said it was a train wreck, and it looks like Friedman got enough pushback so that he had to issue a statement saying that he was disappointed in Elensky because he tried to give Elensky every opportunity to talk about a peace deal in Ukraine, about sitting down with Putin so that they can come to some sort of a peace. And the only thing that came out of Elensky's mouth, according to Friedman, was just bad language. Yeah. It took Friedman about a week or so. I think this message came out 2 days ago. I'm not sure about that, but it took him some time to realize that the interview with Elensky was a complete disaster. And so now he's trying to cover his butt by issuing this statement and throwing the Green Goblin under the bus. Anyway, that was a statement from Lex Friedman. The Wall Street Journal has an article with the title, "Joe Biden's Legacy of Deceit. The attempts to deny inflation were bad enough, but the falsehood that history will remember is the conspiracy to cover up his infirmity." Yeah, that was the problem with Biden, right? Wall Street Journal was his lying about his health. That was one of the problems. But where were you, Wall Street Journal, for 4 years? You were covering up for Biden as well. Sharp as a tack, right? Sharp as a tack. Yeah, Biden had a lot of problems. I can't think of one good thing that Biden did during his presidency. I can't think of one. Not one. Let me think. He recognized the Armenian genocide. There we go. There we go. Glass half full. There's one good thing that Biden did during his 4 years as president. Bidenopolis. So that's the Wall Street Journal throwing Biden under the bus, blaming Biden, even though they were covering up for Biden for 4 years. And finally, Trudeau, the great negotiator. Did Trudeau really say this? Well, I'm going to throw this out there. I'm not sure that Trudeau said this, but I'll throw it out there. It is clown world. We're playing it a bit fast and loose. Trudeau said that if Trump places tariffs on Canada, then the U.S. will buy resources from Russia. That's right. This is called Trudeau negotiating with Trump. Yep. That's how you negotiate, Trudeau. You tell Trump, if you place tariffs on Canada, well, you're going to have to buy Russian energy, and you don't want to do that, so don't place tariffs on us. Trudeau, the great negotiator, drama teacher, ski instructor, and the art of the deal by Justin Trudeau. Anyway, that's the video, everybody. TheDuran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfit, and X. Go to the Duran shop. Pick up some merch like what I'm wearing in this video update. The links are in the description box down below to the Duran shop. Take care.